Journey. I'm your host, Lauren Moore, and with me is the beauteous Kalene Williams. We're two authors on a journey to learn more about writing with you, the audience, so thank you for joining us. Tonight, we're going to do something a little bit different. Tonight, we are the show. Yay! Yay! Talk about reverse engineering your plot together, and we're going to do something live in front of the audience that Kalene and I do on video chats together when we're working through our books, which is we kind of bounce ideas off each other, we brainstorm plots together, and we often will come up with a scene later on in the book and then work backwards in our plot to figure out how our characters got to the end of the story, which
connecting the pieces like little Legos.
Yeah.
Or a puzzle, like a puzzle.
Only it's kind of like we have a complete structure at the end and we want to figure out how did we build that?
Yep.
Figure it out together. So we're going to do that in front of you, the audience, and it's just going to be a little spontaneous, a little bit of an adventure, and we're just going to do it together. So audience participation, if any of you guys in the chat want to kind of jump in and contribute your thoughts, we would love to hear them. Love, love, love.
I'm already loving one from our favorite ice cream neighbor, Jay Clifton Slater. You are the show every week, and I'm good with that.
Yes.
Love you, Cliff.
Thanks, Jay.
Awesome.
We'll see you in a few days.
I'm so excited. Vegas.
The 20 Books Writers Conference is just around the corner. Perhaps this another reason why it's just the two of us tonight is we're saving all of our introvertedness up for this giant writers conference.
There are so many events going on. It's insane. Like I don't know how we're gonna fit everything in there that's going on. So we get to see how they brainstorm. Yes, all just bearing it all for you guys, just stripping it all off and giving you the goods. All right.
Wow. We're still on Mal Cooper's episode just another week later. Mal Cooper?
Yes.
Last week. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we had all of those double entendres.
Oh.
The pearl clutching. Oh my goodness. So much Shakespeare double entendres happening on the show live.
Sorry. My brain took a minute to catch up to there. All right.
You're okay. You're okay.
This is what we do. We're just going to chat. We're going to hang out, and it's going to be fun.
And
reverse engineering
with reverse engineering is brought to you by the Megastructures Anthology, a hard science fiction anthology edited by Yudhanjaya Wijeratne.
It's good. That was good pronunciation.
I tried.
Yes. For us over here in the West, I'm gonna. That's good. Anyway. Sorry.
Follow him on Instagram and Facebook because he has cool posts coming out all the time, and an anthology, which you are in, Kalene.
I am super excited. I submitted on a whim, and when I got my acceptance letter, I was like, oh shit, okay.
Submitted on a whim and worked that story and revised it again. And got
oh my God, freaking. I tore that thing down to its studs and then rebuilt it back together, which actually, funnily enough, this just hit me. That fits great in with this episode because I did have to work from the ending back to the beginning because I had to rip it from its studs to put more focus onto a specific theme. And in order to do that, I had to change parts of the ending and then rework those back to the beginning. Sorry, I just blew my own mind. Okay.
Well, I'm not surprised. I'm not too surprised because I think that more authors reverse engineer their plot than we might really realize. Maybe we just don't have a name for it. Mm-hmm. But often when you're coming up with ideas, you come up with some brilliant moment in your story and you know you want that. You know you want to write a story about that. But how do you get to that point? And that might not be your opening scene. It might be your ending scene. So what does it mean to reverse engineer your plot? It means that the scene that you came up with is at the end of your story, and you've got to figure out, well, how did I get to that story? Okay. So what are some considerations we need to take in mind when we're reverse engineering our plot? What are some plot considerations we need to take in mind?
That's really okay. So number one, in my mind that I always think of is, where could my character be before they are this person at the end? So if they at the end are strong, they are leading a team, for example. My current work in progress is a military sci-fi, so that's kind of where my headspace is at. So I'm going to work with that. If at the end, they're really strong, leading the team, teams together, they're feeding off of each other, they have an oh shit moment, and things are, kind of falling apart, but they've fixed something else. Who could they be before then? Maybe a couple of them don't really get along in the beginning, but now they're like best friends. And because of that struggle of understanding their differences, that can help weave in scenes as well, plot structural scenes. So maybe, okay, at the very end, the bomb goes off. Okay.
Right.
And people have died, but the bad guy has now been revealed, and they know who to go after. So before that, though, they still don't know who to go after, but they know that there's a bomb that needs to go off. Okay. And I work through character. So the two characters, all right, so they don't get along. Maybe there was a scene where character A saved character B's life. And so now they're like, okay, well, you're not so bad. You didn't just let me die there. Okay, so what happened when they were dying? Maybe character A could have didn't have to risk his own life to go save character B. It would have been better to continue on. And then so in that way, you can kind of build up to those epic moments by figuring out the small things that are piecing together. And I do that through my characters. So
well, and
I'm rambling.
You thought of a kind of interesting comment there. The one character asked, why didn't you let me die? Most of us, if we had a chance to save someone's life, we would, or we like to think that we would. We'd go for it. So to say, for someone to think, why didn't you let me die? That kind of implies that they think the other character might be their enemy, or the other character might be the type who normally doesn't, reach out to help other people. So that makes that second character very interesting, and the dynamic between the two. Maybe they're enemies at the start. Maybe the second character is a loner, or like a Scrooge kind of character.
Ooh, what if the second character is actually in bed with the bad guy? And he's playing double agent, and that scene where he saves his life, he's like, I can't do this anymore. You have done everything to be my friend, and I can't just sit and watch you die. Which, at the end of that, if you're writing a trilogy, book 2, now they're working together.
Right. Yeah, and I'm reading a book right now, The Crown Tower by Michael J. Sullivan. And it's a prequel novel to his other series that he wrote, where in the main series, the two characters are, they work together, but they kind of complement each other's weaknesses. One's like a rogue assassin character, and one's like a paladin swordsman kind of guy. So how did they meet? And Michael J. Sullivan decided the two of them hated each other when they first met. So it's
a good dynamic. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. So this initial book is like the backstory to that. And they hate each other at the start and for a lot of the book. And they have to kind of learn to trust each other, which is really hard because of the way the two characters are. Okay. So we had a question from way back at the start of the podcast. Define reverse engineering your plot. And it's the idea that you start first with the ending. You really love that. And you're asking yourself, how did we get to that point? One thing you need to consider is the main conflict of the story. How did the plot get to that point? Then the other piece, which you've been talking about so far, is the character development. So what kind of characters could be there in that final scene what did they need to figure out? What kind of character traits would have helped them to survive and to overcome? And then what does their journey as characters look like to have gotten to that point? What's perhaps the opposite? CC Kiki, he is in the chat, and he points out, what fatal flaw or past trauma do they need to overcome? Or in this final scene, do they fail to overcome? Or along the way, were they struggling with the whole time till we get that? CC writes superhero stories, and that is a beloved trope in superhero stories, that you have that fatal flaw in your main superhero. And sometimes your superhero never overcomes it. They just kind of continue to struggle with it throughout the series, and maybe it develops, maybe it becomes even a strength.
I was just going to say, sometimes your character's flaws can actually become a strength to them. It's that thing that actually ends up, fixing part of the problem, because they are this way. Everyone's been pissed off about it. And then they're just like, God damn it, but there is no right way. And I'm rambling. I'm going to ramble again.
Yeah. Well, so many of the good stories, you start out with the protagonist who has weaknesses or a fatal flaw, and they either learn to face it and overcome it, or they find out that that weakness, that oddity about them, is one of their coolest features, one of their greatest strengths. And when you think about, your past and your life, you've probably had those moments in your life too, where that previously, maybe when you're a kid, maybe you're in middle school, you thought was a weakness, but that you kind of learned to embrace or kind of enjoy about yourself.
And also, I want to add, as when starting with the ending, I tend to, for me personally, I tend to find myself focused on the bad guy, like his ending. So whether that be some kind of slight win or a total epic fail, whatever it is, I tend to be focused on the bad guy. And then I'm like, okay, so what was happening to my good guys that they failed, or they almost failed, or they almost won, whatever that dynamic is another way that I work backwards. It's not with like the good guy and his hurrah. It's actually the bad guy and his moment.
Yes. Yeah. The villain character is another mine, a gold mine, right? For expanding your plot and for finding new and interesting scenes and for getting excited about your story. Do you find that sometimes the villain is easier to write than the main character?
Oh, yeah.
Do you find that? Kalene, go ahead.
Yeah, no, yeah. The bad guy, I don't know if it's just like, like sinful chocolate, man. It's just, they're so much freer, their reasoning for doing things breaks everything that we have been raised to adhere to. You don't be rude to people, don't shout in quiet places.
They shout.
Don't steal, don't be mean, don't purposely hurt people, whatever it is. It's, they have to be that way. Otherwise, there's no conflict. So it's just,
they have their reasoning.
And they do. And if you give your bad guy, if you make your bad guy just as human, alien, emotionally complex as your main character, it's going to, it's going to increase the strength of your story even more. And like, it's probably one reason why I tend to start with the villain at the end, with wherever that climax is to their big thing. Because everything that they've been doing throughout the story, or will be doing throughout the story, because we haven't written it yet, the characters have been responding to, and those characters have been building off of, they have been growing with. And, that big, twisted hurrah at the end could, really, it does impact a lot of what goes on with the good guys. Yeah. I had a point in there. Hopefully I made it.
Well, I was, when you were talking about I lost my point. No, I was thinking about how at the end of the story should kind of touch back on the beginning of the story. It's fun to have your plot go in circles.
Yep. Do the spiral. Yeah.
Yeah. To have to focus on your villain then at the end and figure out, well, how did he come up with this grand scheme to defeat the world or whatever it is? Where did this plot come from? Why was he driven to start it? You get into the villain's motivations, and that can help you to figure out, well, how did I get to point C? So where did this story all start? It's also, have you ever tried to redeem your villain? Or
yes.
the story?
Yes.
We want that in real life. Like, we want to know there's hope, right?
So actually in my first series that eventually I will get around to retinkering over, I ran into a situation where I'm like, he's not really such a bad guy. I mean, he kind of wants to, unleash ungodly hell upon, the entire galaxy, but he has his reasons, like he felt betrayed, whatever billions of years back, in the first place. And he's trying to stay true to, who they were before that would get way too deep into the story, but who his people were before. He was trying to hold on to, that core belief. And for him, they had totally gone away from it. And so by book, what was it? It was like 3 or 4, hopefully, is when for the reader, you start to realize, oh, dude, you're just trying to save everybody, kind of like Thanos, but you're going to kill everybody by doing it.
Well, if you give a person, a few thousand years to kind of dwell on their own thoughts and goals, they can start out righteous, but then over time become kind of corrupted and.
Oh yeah, no, he's batshit crazy.
Yeah,
he infuses his soul into the main character's brain and makes him think all sorts of things. Anyway.
Artie Cabrera, he says villains are awesome because it allows you to be a total piece of poop, fecal matter without the consequences. Art of Today, he says, I find them difficult because they have their own moral code that runs counter to what is truly right. And that sounds like with your character, is he's trying to save his own people by killing everyone else? Right.
To put it on like bare bone explanation, yeah. They had this thing and this is what they did. And then whoever else a part of it was like, yeah, we're kind of out. We're going to do our own thing. And he's like, that's not what we do here. So, yeah.
Josh Hayes says, I always make sure I can empathize with the antagonist.
Yeah. If you can't get into your antagonist's head, at least in some frame, some kind of way, what they're doing and how they're doing it to your main characters, how that's leading up to it, is going to be difficult to be believable, at least for me. I'm not saying this, it's not, you could totally hate your antagonist and it could still be a glorious story, but.
Well, so sympathy means to feel bad for someone, to pity someone. Empathy means to be able to put yourself in their shoes, to feel their pain. Did
I say sympathy?
No, I'm just saying, with any of our characters, but especially your main characters, like your antagonist, you do want to be able to put yourself in their shoes and to feel their pain. Because otherwise, how can you write their voice?
That's true. I just had like a brain blast moment.
Go for it.
So one thing that I noticed in a lot of how to write characters, how to do a story, so much is focused on your main character, your hero. Get into their head, know what they want, know their strength at the beginning and their weakness, know how that changes at the end. But you also need to know that for, whatever the bad guy is, whether it's a corporation, a singular person, or your hero himself. You need to understand that just as much as your main character, because when you're starting at the end, if you know that just as well as you will your main character, it's going to make building those bridges from the beginning to the end a lot stronger, because, you know, bad guy does this. Okay, well, they need a reason to do that. Why were they doing that? And knowing those reasons just as well as you would why your main character is fighting against it will make it all the better.
Right. So with the reverse engineering our plot, we're coming up with that big ending. That's the first idea. From that, we figure out what the central conflict is between our antagonist and protagonist, and then figure out the twists and the turns in the plot that got us to that moment. So you can be thinking about your main character and how they've changed at the end, and then figure out what kind of person they were like at the beginning. Or you can focus on your antagonist. That's another way of doing it, and see how, you know, what got them started on this nefarious plot, you know, or this love gone wrong, or what have you. Maybe your antagonist also has a character arc, and he or she also changes by the end, or maybe they don't. Maybe they stay static. Jay Oliveira, he says, villains are the result of our deepest desires, no matter how evil, greedy, selfish they are. So it's like having a therapy session when writing a villain, opening all obscure doors in your mind. I like that.
That is awesome. I definitely felt that way writing that character I was talking about before. Because, yeah, I mean, he enjoyed it. You know, he enjoyed at that point, he enjoyed the torture. So I had to remember him, you know, and who he was before he got to that point. Because it made writing those words not necessarily easier, but it made them better.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, just like with my main character's struggle, you know, it's hard sometimes to write, especially those really difficult scenes, you know, the death scenes and the, you know, they're this close to dying scene, or, you know, you're literally ripping your main character's whole world out. It makes those better knowing where that bad guy came from, because at some point they were a good guy too. Although, where was the one? Okay, so Artie Cabrera. What if your villain is Michael Myers and he's just pure evil? Well, if your character is just pure evil, well, I guess that's part of your plot. I mean, is it an energetic evil? Is he like some kind of demon from the depths of hell? And hell is a real place of all the negative thoughts that humans create, and every evil that human does feeds them and makes them stronger. So that guy gets stronger. But then when he comes onto Earth, you know, he runs into good people, and it kind of like leeches out his badness, and he starts to get really confused. I just made a main character who's evil. Bam.
Yeah, so this is what we want to do a little later on the show after the sponsor read.
Yep, sorry.
Ending? No. I love this. And we're going to try to work our way backwards from the end. But this is why I wanted Kalene on the show today. I mean, she's on every show. But I knew this perfect for you, because this is like your big strength. Is coming.
This is what I do, man.
Yeah.
All day long.
Now, with villains, this is a question for Kalene, but it's also a question for the chat. Jay earlier, or Joaquin earlier, he said that it's kind of like a therapy session for him. He allows himself to open obscure doors in his mind when he kind of creates these villains. Do you think your villain, is it like a voice? Is that character like part of you that you're kind of like letting have voice in that moment? Or are you kind of mimicking from real life? Not to say that you're putting a person in your book as the villain, but sometimes people or other characters and stories can be your inspiration, and you can kind of like hear their voice when you let your character speak. So for you and for the people in the chat, I'd love to know, are your villains, you know, a side of yourself that you're allowing to give voice, or is it someone from outside of you that you're kind of mimicking or putting in your story, more or less?
So to kind of answer that, it definitely does depend on the villain and the hero and all the other characters, where I'm kind of pulling from as far as who they are, how they feel, how they think. For this particular villain that I've been talking about, he wasn't so much a part of me or someone else that I knew. He became the result of a time frame in my life. So I took that struggle that I went through and turned it into a living, breathing character. So emotions that I felt at the time, thoughts that I may have had at the time, became that character's core. It became who he was in the end. So then what he was in the beginning, that was my reverse engineering, the what could have been. Mm-hmm. So for him, specifically, he was a little different. That story in particular is which is why I can't go back right now and fix it up, because it has a lot of me in it, and certain scenes are written in a way if my emotion were a place. That's what I wrote. So, I mean, that's another way that you can, kind of, if you can go there. I don't recommend it. It is a mind fuck. I'm not going to lie. But if you can go there, you can create some really interesting things. Like through that, I had this whole ending planned. Actually, so I'm kind of doing a twist. I had this whole ending planned in, I can't remember which book. But then as I was gearing up to it, because I already had written it, so I was writing up to it, and I'm like, this doesn't work anymore. He needs to actually be in my main character's head and be screwing with him. So at that point, I had to then write that scene where it's revealed he's in his head, and then write backwards from what I had already written, because in order to make that make sense. So trust your gut. I rambled. I don't know if any of that made sense, and I'm sorry, but trust your gut.
Yeah, no, this is what plotting often is you start out with one idea and then you ask yourself, how did we get here? And then work your way backwards. Or if you're starting from the beginning, you start there and then you're asking yourself, what if? And you work your way forwards. You might get to a place where you've got an outline for your plot, and then you have to figure out, well, how does each of these points on the outline happen? Again, you're still asking yourself what if and kind of how questions, and you keep on feeling your way out and changing things up. And that's kind of like with you, with your antagonist. You started with the dark period of your own life. You started with real people in real life, and then that inspired you with your story. But then the characters took on a life of their own, and they became different from the people in real life. And I think that's what the people in chat are saying, something like that too. Bard of Today says sometimes he has characters that are kind of, he's making up whole cloth from his own mind. Sometimes he's pulling them from life around him. Bill Frisbee says, my villains are outside of himself, but that doesn't mean I don't understand them at a very deep level.
Yeah. Yeah. Go Frisbee. Yeah. He's my favorite.
Okay. So I think we have time for...
Oh, we'd have a sponsor read. Yep. Okay. So with that delightful segue, look how epic we are tonight. Okay, here we go. Tonight is brought to you by Megastructures, a hard science fiction anthology. Few artists thrive in solitude, and nothing is more stimulating than the conflict of minds with similar interests, wrote the celebrated science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke. In these pages, a spectacular collection of science fiction authors, newcomers and veterans, bestsellers and debuts, clash thusly over one of Clarke's most famous motifs: extreme feats of engineering. Mm-hmm. Authors of this collection include Peter Codron, M.D. Cooper, John Frater, Abby Goldsmith, Soham Guha, Craig Martell, Bill Patterson, Kate Pickford, Felix R. Savage, Daniel Arthur Smith, Naveen Riratne, and Kalene Williams. Curated by Yudhanjaya Rijaretne, Moe's 5.5 megastructures echoes a journey through hard science fiction that inspires, entertains, and quite possibly explores. From Sri Lanka, India, Australia, and North America come 5 minutes into the future efforts to detect alien life, great colonies in the void, homophobia in space, and a one-man army being endlessly 3D printed and sent out to do battle among the stars. Download this free glimpse into the future now and stimulate your mind.
Nice. That's a pretty big list of names to be a part of, Kalene. What an honor.
Yeah. I'm just trying to keep up.
Well, and your story was, I enjoyed it. So that story, did you reverse engineer that story?
In the end, I did. So that one was one that I already had half written. But what I was writing it for, it wasn't going to fit the genre. And then I heard about Yudhanja's anthology, and I'm like, no, that could fit there. So I refocused it to focus more on, like that mega structure and the characters that are in it. And when I got accepted, he's like, okay, but we have an opportunity here to really focus on this theme and of I forget what he called it. So it's a prison, except all the prisoners are like on the inside, and then everyone else is watching them from the outside, and it's all wrapped around a black hole. Mm-hmm. And so it was this balance of prisoners watching prisoners is essentially what it became. So I ripped out its guts, and I knew where the ending was. So I'm like, okay, this is definitely the ending. That's not going to change. And I'm like, but this middle bit of how they got there, I need to refocus that. So I had to be like, okay, here's where she was before, or here's where she is now at the end. And okay, so this is what it was when I first wrote it. How can I change that to focus more into her mind and the struggle and the realization that she herself is a prisoner and being forced to watch other prisoners. So, yeah.
So, yeah, there again, you started with that final concept of that Black Mirror-ish kind of prison, where it's prisoners are also guarding prisoners, and I guess the guards didn't realize that they're prisoners in this.
Well, I guess I could say so. In my story, basically, it's a prison that's built around a black hole. So there's different colonies that are, it's kind of like a Dyson. Oh God, what is it called? Told you, just left my brain meet. Yes, it's like it's based off a Dyson sphere around the black hole. Mm-hmm. And she's in Warren 3, and that's like all the life she's ever known. But going through the story, old memories start cropping up, and she realizes that she's actually been brainwashed into believing that they're the end of the universe. And the people who are being held prisoner here are just other people who live in the Warrens, and they did something they weren't supposed to. That's their punishment, to be held, out on the brink of black hole death. And then she finds out that that's not altogether true. And then so I had to work from the ending back to the beginning to make that particular point stronger, because I had at first added a secondary plot thread without realizing it. So I had to kind of like rip that out and kind of make it, a wondering in the background, and really super hyper focus on her and her headspace and what she's gone through being here all these years.
So the part of your story that you ripped out and then you replaced, you're looking for something that draws the plot along in a more compelling way, something that really gets into your protagonist's main struggle and her change and growth as a character from the start of your short story to the end.
Yes, because my bad guy was the structure she was actually living in. So 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 from everything that we've been talking about, it's a little bit different because the bad guy is inanimate, essentially, as far as she's concerned. So I had to really dig deep into her head, her struggles, and her reasoning behind doing what she did towards the end, which I'm not going to say because you'll have to read it.
Cool. All right. So let's see some of this reverse engineering in action. We've got 3 different endings. One is for maybe a science fiction story, and one's for a mystery, and one's for a romance. We'll read them off, and then we'll pick one, and then us 2 hosts, and then you guys in chats, we're going to try to work together to brainstorm a plot for this ending. So actually, let's start with Joaquin's. He suggested this one.
Oh, wait, can I pause you really quick?
Yeah.
Sorry. I just saw this question in the chat from Jay Olive. Oh my God, I'm going to butcher your last name. When you guys say writing the end first, are you actually writing the last chapter, or is it more like outlining the end, then writing it when the story gets there? So for me, that's personal preference. I might just like very loosely flesh out something, at least enough that I can chew on. And at other times, it's just like a couple sentences. So depending on how much you can see, feel of whatever that scene is, go for it and then work from there. Because honestly, every story that I write is a little bit different. So like the Rabbit's Hole, the one that I was just talking about, I wrote that ending first. Like that was done. And then I wrote everything else later. Other stories that I've written, I had a vague understanding. So it was like big explosion. This character is now devastated because insert reason. Sometimes I don't always have a reason, but I want him to be devastated. And then I go backwards and then I fill in and then know the ending. So it's not always the same for every story.
Yeah, when we say writing the end first, we're really talking about outlining, I would think. Yeah. We're talking about plotting. So we've come up with the end first, and maybe we write down all our ideas for it. Maybe it's a paragraph, maybe it's 2 paragraphs, however long it is. Maybe it's a couple sentences, but then we're going to plot our way backwards to figure out how this whole story goes. And maybe from the ending scene, we have a brilliant idea, and the next one is like where it opens. So now we've got the ending, we've got the beginning, and then we kind of find the climax in the middle. Go ahead.
Yes, because there's one of our episodes, I can't remember the guest, I'm so sorry. I think it was the short story structure. Tinsy Taylor? Was that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So when he was saying sometimes your ending is actually your climax, which isn't really the ending. So sometimes, and this is where everything is just like nothing is a hard and fast rule. It's all willy-nilly, and we're trying to make it put down some tracks for you guys. Sometimes that epic ending that you have in mind, that you maybe have fleshed out, maybe you just have a few words, it actually ends up being the scene before the ending.
Right.
But so long as you have some sort of post in the ground, there's always more horizon to explore. It's just you need somewhere to start from. And sometimes that starting place can be somewhere in the end.
This reminds me of another audience question we had from Walt. Robillard, he asks, put it here. So you started writing backwards towards the beginning. And I guess by that we mean we've plotted backwards towards the beginning. And about halfway in, you realize that the ending doesn't work with the scenes that you put together. So you plotted out this awesome novel, and you started with the ending and you plotted your way backwards, and then you start writing. But now you're halfway through your manuscript and you're finding that the ending you'd originally come up with is no longer working with your manuscript. What do? Do you rewrite the ending, or do you make new scenes to fit it?
So, I mean, that is going to be an authorly hard decision choice at that point. I mean, if you are super happy with the characters, how they've developed, with the scenes that are building up to this thing, and the thing isn't working for what you've built, freaking rewrite the ending. Because the initial ending that you had, you wouldn't have the amazing story you do now had you not been thinking towards the original ending in the first place, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I mean, honestly, if that were me, I had my ending, and this happens to me all the time. I have my ending, I'm rewriting through the beginning, and then the ending doesn't work. So that was actually, originally we were talking about this earlier before the show, which is why I kept stumbling over myself. C481. That's actually what happened with C481. I had an original ending, and then I was writing backwards from the beginning, but nothing was leading up to that ending. So then I picked the one that made the most sense, and I wrote from the beginning and made a new ending. But I wouldn't have gotten that story if I hadn't have started with the ending that I initially had.
Right.
So trust your gut. Your gut will always, like 9.9999% will always be right. Trust your gut.
Right. Yeah. So you have that brilliant plot, and then you start writing your story, and maybe when you're in the middle of writing, your characters and your plot want to take a turn that you hadn't anticipated, but you know this is the right thing to do. Well, maybe you've got to change your outline. And that's fine. Actually, that's wonderful. You just came up with a better idea. Go for it. You know, I just finished a draft that I've been working on since May. So for half a year. And we came up with the original plot. And the plot, we kind of worked our way backwards. But in the writings, a lot of that plot has changed, and a lot of it we, kind of threw out, and it came about from a whole lot of conversations and a whole lot of pondering, and, sometimes falling asleep on a problem, waking up in the middle of the night, coming up with an idea. But yeah, be willing to change things and to let your imagination help you come up with something even better. Go ahead, Keely.
So I just want to say, okay, so with what the story that you just finished, you definitely knew the ending, right? This bad thing was going to happen. It had to happen. It was going to happen. You needed to get there. And we had gotten there. Like, everything was leading up to it. And then in one of the conversations, we're just like, yeah, but this dude needs to not be dead. And so we completely rewrote the middle to make him alive, which made the ending even better, but the ending was still the same. So sometimes you can still keep the essence of that total end,
right?
Even though you've changed the dynamics of how you got there. So
yeah. And then what you'll find when you allow yourself to be open to plot changes like that is that your characters will want to go into new directions that remind you of the beginning of the story. Maybe they've learned something new. Maybe they've kind of come full circle, but they'll want to make connections to the beginning, and then in the end result, if it all works together really well, the readers read your book and they have a very nice sense of completion.
And then always wanting more. Okay, so we should probably get on this reverse engineering story thing that we're supposed to do.
Hakeem, he submitted this one, and it's very good. It's kind of set in a futuristic world. So the final scene of this novel is the bounty hunter finally encounters the secret woman who hired him. They're at her penthouse. But right after the woman reveals her true identity, the Martian, that was the bounty hunter, jumps out the window straight to his death.
Oof.
So it's maybe a noir kind of story.
Yeah, that's definitely like maybe noir, a little bit of grimdark, because your main character is killing himself.
Protagonist is a Martian bounty hunter, and at the end, he finally meets the person who hired him, and his choice is to jump out the window straight to his death. And now we got to figure out, how did we get there?
All right, so I'm immediately thinking, why is he jumping out the window? If this is your main character, if this is a person you have strictly been following from the beginning, and you're just going to kill them, that I'm not saying that you can't kill your main character, but if you can keep them alive for more stories, then do so. So maybe he knows something she doesn't know. This is definitely a bit of a sci-fi, right? I mean, there's aliens, bounty hunters, whatnot. Maybe there's a technology that he jumps out the window, and I don't know if you want to go time sequence, if you want to go totally lost the words, jumping through space-ness. Do like a self-propelled hyperspace jump from the window because he's high enough, which is why he picked that building in the first place, because it lines up in the solarness at a specific time. He has to jump in order to jump and then pop out through, I don't know, can wormholes go through planets? That would be something you would need to look up. Can wormholes go through planets? Because if they can, if he's jumping into a wormhole, holy shit, and he pops back out, right? And then, okay, we're on to something. I'm loving it.
It could be like a Sherlock kind of plot twist.
Yep.
He jumps off a building and you think he's dead, but he's not actually dead. Okay.
Yes.
So maybe.
Okay. So, but why was he jumping off, and why are they in the thing? And let me read this back again.
We have to decide. Are we going to go like a technological answer to this route? Are we going to do like time travel kind of thing? Are we going to do a fake suicide or a real suicide? Maybe he's avoiding a fate worse than death.
Ooh, okay. No, I like it. No, let's not do the obvious. We're really going to kill the mofo, and then she's going to become our new main character. So, but now we've got to go backwards of how they met, why they're together. Let's see. So finally encounters the secret woman who hired him. So he's definitely our focus. So throughout this story, you're definitely going to be leaving breadcrumbs of this woman, who she is, what she's about. Oh, we've already got stuff going on in the chat. Let's see. Shadow's saying, what if he's going to die from doing whatever his job was, so he decides to kill himself before he is captured. Bard of Today is saying maybe it was a body double, and the real bounty hunter used him to find out the woman's identity. Ooh, so there's two bounty hunters. There's a plot twist. So, but then in there, though, you still have to consider why is he killing himself? So we've added a plot twist, but we still don't know why he would want to kill himself. Maybe she hired him to kill her. Ooh, Artie, you just gave me a brain blast. Okay, so the bounty hunter encountering the secret woman who hired him is actually someone that he's been interacting with throughout the entire book, right? And she's the entire time has just been like waiting, like, will you freaking figure it out already and kill me? So why does she want to be killed? Maybe she owes a whole bunch of money. Maybe she just set off a giant plague in the Centura system. I don't know. Kills himself rather than killing her because he loves her. That is exactly where I was going with that, Artie. Get out of my head. But yeah, so this just turned into a sci-fi love story. What? Okay, so yeah.
Okay, so then why would she be hiring him to kill her?
So I guess now we need to dig a little bit deeper into the plot, into what's actually happening in the story. So I'm going to go off of the thing I rambled before.
It sounds like she's revealing that she is the villain.
Yeah. So intergalactic plague.
He's not willing to face that. He'd rather die than face that.
Ooh, what if she needs him to kill her? We can figure out why she can't kill herself later, but she needs him to kill her because in her body is a plague that is going to wipe out anybody with, I don't know, B blood type or something. We can figure out why she wants to kill B blood type later, but
well, then she could just commit suicide.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, we would have to then at that point be like, okay, well, why wouldn't she just kill herself? I don't know that I could kill myself. That'd be really hard.
Guys.
She is taking her own death or setting up someone else to take the blame. Ooh, unless she was, okay, drug mules, people who are forced into trafficking, right? And they get their stomachs cut open, or they have to swallow a bunch of, little baggies and then go across the border, and then they get cut open and left for dead. What if whatever she's is supposed to traffic to wherever place would be catastrophic, and she doesn't want to do it? So she hires a bounty hunter to kill herself so that her family, who's also being framed if she doesn't do it, doesn't get harmed, because if she's killed, then they can't blame her for not finishing the task.
Okay. So say that again. She needs a bounty hunter to kill her.
Okay, so if we're working backwards, the bad guy who has secretly hired this bounty hunter to kill herself, right? She is actually being forced to traffic something from some other gang or whatever. Maybe it's in her body. Maybe it's something, maybe it's a package she has to pick up. But she doesn't want to do it, because if she does do it, then it's a lot of people are going to die. But her family is on the line. Her daughter, her grandpa, I don't know, somebody that they have or have tracked on. But if she can die before she delivers the goods, they can't go after her family, because that's just like, oh, well, damn it, the dude killed her. We need to rethink it, which would be in her mind of thinking. And then she's also saving whoever.
Yeah, that could work. We have a lot of comments in chat.
We do. All right. Ooh, Shadow. Let's see. Guy Anthony. She was his long lost dead wife who went into hiding. Ooh, that's a lot to unpackage, Guy. There's a whole act in there with that.
Yeah, but I can see where there is an answer there for, okay, so you think your spouse is dead, but then you find out that they've become some kind of supervillain. And then there's this big reveal at the end. Not only are they not dead, but they've also become a person you don't at all recognize. So he might jump to either his actual death or a fake death, to get away from that revelation, or doesn't want to live in that world anymore, or would rather fake his death to get away from this villain person who's so different from the person you remembered earlier. Okay, so that's possible.
Let's see. So Shadow's saying she released a plague her father made and hired him to kill her because her blood has the cure and she doesn't want it found. Ooh. So she does want everybody to die. So in Shadow's world, with our character wanting herself to die, and then the guy ends up killing himself, so he doesn't kill her. Shadow is saying that she is the only piece that has the cure. So if she dies, then everybody else won't be able to live. Ooh, that's some serious shit right there. So if we're going off of Shadow's tangent, You definitely want to put in there, you know, instances where he finds out that there is some kind of cure, but it's in the blood or the plasma or the bone marrow, something. And he's tracking down that person. So maybe he hasn't been hired to kill anybody, but because he's already a bounty hunter, he has skills to be able to track her down. And the big twist would be, are they connected in some way? Do they know each other? Is it really his daughter, his mom, his aunt? I don't know, the girl from across the street that made really good cookies? I don't know.
Well, and here's another question. At the end, is this going to be a big reveal to the audience as well as your protagonist? Like, did the audience know this woman beforehand as a different character and they didn't realize it was her? Or does the audience know all along, but our main character does not?
That is a great question. So that right there is definitely something that I see some authors go through. They're like, okay, well, I have this idea, but I'm going to have to create a whole new character in order for it to make sense. Then create a whole new character. You have to decide, is this girl going to be breadcrumbs through the perspective of this bounty hunter? Or is she going to actually be a secondary point of view where the reader is wondering, where are both of their insanities going to merge, cross, and eventually explode?
Right. Yeah.
Which either one could work beautifully.
Right.
It's just at that point, yeah, you need to decide, is she going to be a main kind of like point of view character? She has thoughts, feelings, more commentary. We dig deep into her psyche. Or is she just going to be like that person who, from the narrator's point of view, isn't in her head? You're only really focused on the main character as far as their perspective. So their actions, the understanding is only through the psyche of the main character. Or are you going to have both of those fighting each other? So that's a dynamic that you discover as you're engineering from back, is, do you really want to get into that deep of that person? Me right now, I'm freaking like, yeah, let's do it. Let's dig into this bitch, man. She's got some shit she needs to say. Let's say it.
Right. Yeah. For me, you know, writing a scene is like a huge accomplishment. Getting a scene done, getting a chapter done is great. So the more I get excited about a plot option or a character option, that's the path I'm going to take. So if having a protagonist that having an antagonist that has a giant reveal at the end is more exciting, and I want to show them in real life trying to fit in with society and trying to like go under the radar, and then there's little clues along the way that this person is hiding some big secret, I might find that a little more exciting, and I might kind of try to reverse engineer that plot. But yeah, either one. If you've got a villain that is evil right from the get-go, and that's more exciting, you know, make that person come alive. Okay, Kalene, go ahead.
Okay, so in my head, male character's bounty hunter, chick's the one that hired him, and he's jumping out the window, right? But we're going backwards from this. Oh shit! Don't freaking go away. Why does my brain do this to me? Okay, no.
Audience, I promise you, it was brilliant. I saw the look on her face.
It was. Oh my god! It was right there. Okay, so no, she hires him to kill her for whatever her reason, right? But what if the reason why she hired him is for one of his past exploits, which is the beginning chapter that you start with, which literally has nothing to do with the ending. He is capturing whatever gem thief guy, right? And he likes to keep trophies. So that's like your main character's thing. He keeps trophies from his bounty hunter things. But the trophy that he kept is something that she needs for her dastardly villainous plans. And the reason why she hires him is because he doesn't talk to anybody unless he's getting paid, right? Otherwise, he's a ghost. So the only way that she can get him out into the open is if she can talk to him like a client. But she needs to figure out where he keeps his trophies. Oh, this just got deep, man. Sorry, I just got really excited.
So then the next stage would be to figure out what is that trophy?
What's the trophy? Why does she need it? And how does that play into what we're going off like a plague to kill people? How does a random trophy that he kept from one of his things fit into her plague? Which also melds into Walt's question, what if the scenes that you are creating no longer fit with your ending? Right now, I can't see how something that he is keeping as a trophy could fit into something that she needs to complete her dastardly plague launch. So right there, do we rewrite the ending or do we make it fit with what we had before? I'm tempted to rewrite the ending.
Very good.
But that's with me.
While we're rewriting the ending, we had another suggestion for that ending. The target woman, she could, the target she gave him was a child he didn't know he had, and she revealed it to him.
Oh, he kills the kid, and then she's like, that was your son.
Oh! I didn't, when I read that sentence, I didn't understand. I thought she was wanting him to kill the child. This person is saying that earlier in the book, he killed a child, and then she reveals that it was his. Yeah.
Yeah, this is officially grimdark, man. You just gave me a damn moment.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that would be.
Oh, so what if that's the beginning? Like, what if, like, oh god, I'm gonna meld them right now, you guys.
Oh,
okay, so he got hired to kill this kid, right? And he's kind of struggling with it, but fuck it, he's a bounty hunter. That's what he does. He just does the shit. Kills the kid. He keeps a trophy, but the trophy is some kind of like like USB port key thing. And the reason why person needed him to kill the kid in the first place was because whatever is on that key is government stuff. Okay. Government stuff, military stuff, whatever have you. Because he got a girl pregnant when he was really young. She ended up giving it up for adoption, or she was a drug addict. I don't know. Either way, the kid's in a family where he was adopted. And he killed his own kid. And she needs the key because it's, what would it be? Like some kind of like stuffed animal? You could put USB ports in stuffed animals and he wouldn't even know it's in there. Carries it on him like a little keychain on his gun. It's a tiny teddy bear that has a keychain attached to his gun that he uses. And now he calls his gun Bear.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think there are definitely pieces of this plot that you could keep on.
Okay, sorry. No, Boiler says, but the kid was a grown-up. Dude, no, we just went to full-on grimdark. This kid was probably between the age of 7 and 13 in my head. I'm sorry. Does that make me a bad person? No. That makes me, I will make this story exactly what my gut's telling me it should be.
Okay, well, even if we can make the kid grown up, just a plot in our minds. That scene, we know that scene where he kills this person who is innocent. We kind of find out at the end that person's innocent, and that's part of his whole shock. We know that scene's really significant. We know that scene's really important. That could either be your inciting event at the beginning of your story. So your kind of first little climactic moment that starts him on this journey of your whole story.
Changes his entire world from what it is to something completely different.
Or it could be maybe the climax of your first act. So he gets an assignment from this woman to kill, this person. And maybe he doesn't want to do it because the person seems like an innocent citizen, or maybe even a young innocent citizen. And the first act could be leading up to that point, you know, whether or not he's going to do the job. So then you have to turn up the pressure on him. You have to raise the stakes on him. Maybe he even comes to see that character not as an innocent civilian, but he sees that character do something wrong that kind of assuages his conscience or something for fulfilling this bounty hunt.
Yeah,
so
no, that's really good.
The more that he struggles to actually get to the point of taking that person's life and then getting over it, the more that it'll be a shock at the end when he found he was completely wrong about that person all along. Not only was that person innocent of what he had thought that person had done, but that person was his kid.
No, that's good, because like you then, oh shit, did it again. I'm gonna read guys because my brain just died. Okay, so kid knew his mom was a villain and stole the cure and kept it on a necklace. She decides to kill the kid because he knew too much. So with guys, I'm seeing more of like a teenager. You know, they're a little bit older, maybe getting into the family biz. Knew his mom was a villain too. Whoa, okay, people are talking.
With guys, okay, so we can take the plot in this direction. The kid knew his mom was a villain, stole the cure, and kept it on the necklace. She decides to kill the kid because he knew too much. All right, so maybe that does happen, and in the end, the mom gets this cure. But now we really don't want our main character to jump out a window.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing, is the character is jumping out the window. So now how does he and why does he jump out the window?
So we might have to let that go.
And so that is at a point where if you've reached a point where you really like where your plot is, where it's now beginning, where its middle is, and where it is potentially heading, which is nothing towards your character jumping out a window, then they don't jump out a window.
But it helped you to come up with this idea of, you know, plague wiping out part of mankind, and this woman has a possible cure, but she's also behind keeping the plague, taking out part of.
So I'm sorry, I really like the idea where and you fleshed it out a little bit more too. He has this first assignment, and you know, he knows the name. He's tracking this person. You know, maybe we won't make them quite so young. Let's make them 16 to 22, somewhere a little bit older, so it's not quite so heart-wrenching. Little kid. You know, but seeing them, it's like, you know, maybe that's his first young one. He's always done, you know, he's always killed people who've and I just realized we went from a bounty hunter to oh man. Our main character is not a bounty hunter anymore. They're what do you call it? The people that you hire to kill people.
Assassin?
Yeah, our main character just went from a bounty hunter to an assassin. So there's another thing. Yeah, so that's fun.
Yeah, well, bounty hunters can assassinate people too.
Well,
right?
No, I mean bounty hunters they capture bad people, and then they get money for it. They don't actually go out and kill people. I suppose if they can get the bounty if the person dies. But what we're talking about, he's actually getting an assignment to go kill this person, and he's kind of not okay with it.
You're right.
Ooh, okay. He's still a bounty hunter. Okay, we just went another level, dudes. Okay, this is what's happening. We went another level. He's still a bounty hunter, right? And they have their boards where they go to look for the bounties and stuff and what they want to do next. And he picks one, and he's supposed to meet at this place. But instead of being like, I need you to capture this person, I need you to kill this person. But the money amount is so much. And he's like, you know, people have died on assignment before, And by what this dude's saying, this person is real bad news. It'd probably be better off not being around, but he's struggling with that, right? So now we have a character conflict. He's making a decision to go through with it, but he's kind of struggling with it. And especially when he finds the young teenager, oh, I was making a teenager, right? And he's like, this can't be the right guy. And so maybe there's a chapter of it's like it has to be somebody else, but it's definitely this person. Okay, so why is it this person? He's following this person around.
Yeah.
Tie all the pieces together.
Sure. Yeah.
Freaking, that's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Bounty hunter turned assassin.
MD Beards asks, what genre are we looking at? Sci-fi Western, Dead or Alive?
Ooh. I don't know. I don't know if I'd go Western per se. I mean, you could definitely take it that way.
But the setting would come into play.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Bounty Hunter's Martian. So it could be set on Mars, but it could be set on another planet.
Yeah, so where is this guy hunting his unexpected prey? Is it through the city streets, with flying cars and buildings that rise up into clouds curling around them? Is it an endless landscape of desert and sagebrush? Is it a space station?
And who's in charge of this civilization? Who are the power players? Who are the influencers? And what does that have to do with this woman? Who's paying her? Who supplied her with the virus? Who supplied her with the cure? Where did she get all this? And why is she doing it? What's motivating her? All of these are questions that we can ask, and any of those answers might give you a new plot point for your story.
Yeah, but the biggest thing, you have to be open to changing your own mind. And that's definitely something like I see a lot of authors struggle with, is they have this great idea, they have this great character, and they're like, but it's not anything that it's supposed to be. And it's just like what I just realized, we took a bounty hunter and made him an assassin. And I'm like, okay, wait, no, but he's supposed to be a bounty hunter. And just that quick, we are still able to keep him a bounty hunter, but now he has a character moment, a plot moment rather, where who he is in the beginning is being challenged. He's being given this, how much money or whatever it is that he's being offered, would it take to make this happen? All you have to do is kill this person, and they're a terrible person anyway, and you're going to get all of this in return for it, and so now that's a struggle that your character's going through.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, the more your main character can struggle against his own weaknesses and start to overcome them as a result of the plot, and maybe he's struggling with that target that he had to assassinate, and then he finally did it, and maybe he's got the guilt, maybe he's got the remorse, then the more shocking that revelation will be at the end. Absolutely. So it's kind of like with The Crucible. If you've ever watched that play, you've got a main character, he's got a lot of personality flaws and weaknesses, but he learns to stand up for truth by the end, and then the ending comes. The ending comes. And it's way more sad and impactful because he spent all of that energy finally doing the right thing, and then the ending happens. It would be the same thing with our guy if he started out kind of, maybe he's kind of like a self-centered type of person, maybe self-centered, kind of lonely.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a drunk. He likes his whiskey. Right.
But he has to, clean himself up to get on mission. And
maybe he hasn't had a bounty in a while. Maybe we're inject some other characters. There is another team out there. Maybe it's his old team. I don't know. They keep getting the bounties before he does. He's at a moment where he's almost giving up. So it's like this one's like his Hail Mary. Right. If you could write it in a way where this one's like his Hail Mary, this is his last one to get back on top. Yeah, he's got some debts, maybe.
Mm-hmm. That would
ship
raise the stakes, put some pressure on him, but also give him reason to change his mindset and to kind of awaken his conscience. And then he challenged that. And as he's challenging his own conscience and he's learning and growing from it, then at the end, when he gets that revelation, oh, you were wrong the whole time, it would be a real gut-wrenching moment.
Yeah.
But Jay points out he doesn't have to die. He could jump out of the window. This was Jay's original story. So Jay gets to say he could jump out of the window, but actually there's a sofa or something that catches him.
Oh, he could have planned it. So, like, yeah, he could have something out there.
Right.
Waiting for him so he doesn't die.
Okay, and I guess book 2, he'll have to
well, now he has to find the woman, right? Because he didn't kill her. Or no, he needs because he's not killing the woman anymore. He needs to find her because it's like, what the fuck did you do to me? Just like totally turned my world upside down.
He needs to defeat her.
Yep, he's got to find her now.
The next story will be defeating her nefarious plot. And he still won't be able to redeem his sin.
And he's going to carry around that teddy bear keychain everywhere. It's going to become like the character thing. Every time you mention it in a story at that point, it's going to be like remembering, oh God, that's when he killed the kid, right?
Maybe he'll become like some kind of Batman character or who's the blind guy, the blind character in the red suit? Devil.
Oh, Daredevil?
Daredevil, yeah.
Daredevil? Yeah.
Yeah, so like a vigilante who's, going against the evil guys, and all of it's because he's trying to redeem his sin of murdering his own child as a bounty hunter.
And from there, I mean, you could uncover, maybe it's a whole underground scheme where some of the worst have gotten together to try and eradicate the universe of bounty hunters, because they're the only ones that really stand in their way, because the law doesn't really do much because they're too predictable.
Yeah.
Come a vigilante.
That's right. Yeah.
However that would work.
That's an idea, vigilante. All right. Well, as you can see, you just start brainstorming, and you can kind of keep going. And 2 hours later, this is what we do. We get on the video chat. 2 hours later, we're like, oh, look at the time.
Probably should get going. But I mean, that's just how easy you can take an endpoint. And like what we were on plagues, and then but she was doing this, and we're like, no, totally new beginning. The whole thing starts with, but that's the whole point, is allowing yourself to take those avenues. I mean, if you could take those avenues, I mean, you might bounce here and there. I mean, jot quick notes, bounty hunter, plague, woman, bad, kid, target, however that might work for you. But yeah, I mean, you could create something unbelievable.
Yeah. We apologize if this was a little chaotic, but that's what creativity often is, and that's where the right side of your brain can come in and write things down and start to organize them and erase things that don't work and rewrite things that work better. But keep going. We're excited about your book. We're excited about your story. We're wishing you all the best with it, and keep working hard on it. If you have any questions, pop in the Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you. And we're excited to see where you take it.
Absolutely. What she said. And I want to thank again to Mo's 5.5 Megastructures Anthology, sponsoring tonight. You can, honestly, the way to get this, you click the link, it's a BookBub. The only thing that it costs you is your email address, and you can get all of these amazing stories from all of these amazing authors basically for free. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I've got that link on my page. I'm going to put it on my author page as well. I know that Craig Martell and I know Andy Cooper and Yuta, I know they all have things going out in their
newsletters.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. I know they have going out in their newsletters. You can even find, I did a live read on Keystroke Medium, and there is a link to it in there as well. And thank you guys for hanging out with us and letting us just basically do what we do in when we're just like, hey, I have a plot I need to figure out. This is what we do. We shoot the shit, we figure out ideas, and it eventually will all tie together. Trust the process, no matter how chaotic or crazy it gets. Trust that it is going to meld together, and you will get there. All right. So yeah, for Lauren Moore, I am Kalene Williams. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us on your writer's journey. Be sure to check back next week where we're going to talk about some reading, writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium's The Writer's Journey. Good night, guys.
Good night.